9 of the SJP Wrestling Podcast. SJP Wrestling Podcast now exclusively coming to you as a Radio Tekkers production. It feels so good to be back, so good to be with Radio Tekkers. I am over the moon that this show is back. Last week's episode, our return, I guess, with Radio Tekkers head honcho, one of the head honchos, Tanner, covering the awesome Money in the Bank 2011 pay-per-view, was hugely well received. Loads of people had a listen, loads of people got in contact and said they enjoyed it. It really meant the world to me to have all this positive feedback about bringing this show back to you all. So thank you so much. On today's show, we're revisiting a former guest, Kurt Healey from EVM Wrestling in Evesham. Kurt came on the show many weeks and months ago now, not long after he had put on his first show with EVM Wrestling and talked us through the ups and downs of starting a wrestling promotion. Not just starting a wrestling promotion, which is difficult enough in its own right, but starting a wrestling promotion in the middle of a global pandemic, which some people called him crazy. I was one of them. We had a good laugh at that. But it ultimately has turned out well. It was a good show. And this is now, well, they're on show 4 coming up now, I believe, EVM. This episode with Kurt today was recorded a few weeks back, not long after their third show, where myself, my wife, and my youngest daughter actually went along, watched the wrestling matches that Kurt promoted. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We had friends of the show, Joshua Goodwin and David Eaton, on the card, as well as others. Members of the GL2 were there as well, who people may remember from previous episodes of the SJP Wrestling Podcast, and hopefully we'll hear again on future episodes of the SJP as well. It's a thoroughly interesting discussion with Mr. Healey about still having issues putting on shows with COVID still raising its head here and there. A real good sort of catch up, and I hope to do another one with him in another few weeks' time. Before we get to that today, though, I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody involved with the Radio Tekkers brand, the Radio Tekkers network, channel, whichever way you want to word it. It really is just coming on leaps and bounds with some fantastic content and some fantastic content creators. We have UFC coverage with the incredible 5 Rounds show hosted by Mags and Carlos. So if UFC is, MMA is your bag, if it's your cup of tea, if it ticks boxes for you, check this out. Mags and Carlos are so well informed, intelligent fans of this. It is well worth listening to. You get instant reactions on the Radio Tekkers YouTube station, as well as a podcast as well from the guys. Well worth listening to. You have football coverage, or I'm talking real football here, as in, played with a ball and your feet, not hand egg, as the NFL may be referred to by some. The Premier League is covered at Radio Tekkers, the Champions League, the Europa League, all sorts, with the likes of Tanner, Mags, Matt, Chris, so many more as well. Fantastic football minds on the channel covering this wonderful, hugely popular global sport. And we also have the likes of Benny Mac, Ori, Ray, or joining Radio Tekkers and producing content as well. It's really exciting time. And not only that, of course, you get exclusively the SJP Wrestling Podcast, and now as well, exclusively, you also get my other show that I do with my good buddy Magsy, Chain Wrestling. That will be exclusively now with Radio Tekkers. So follow the social medias for Radio Tekkers, at Radio Tekkers on Twitter. Find it on YouTube with the same handle there. Give it a like, give it a follow, give it a subscribe. Hit all the bells and ticks you need to touch upon on the screen to get all your Radio Tekkers content. You will not be disappointed, I assure you. You can follow me at SJP Words on Twitter. You can follow the show at SJP Wrestling Pod. Chuck us both a follow on there as well. And I really hope you enjoy our chat today with EVM head honcho, Kurt Healey. As always, thank you so much for listening.
Hello, brother. This is NWA WCW enhancement talent Randy Hogan, baby. Being in the ring with the Road Warriors, Vader, Abdul the Butcher, Midnight Express, and all them guys. Let me tell you, it was dang rough. But not as rough as listening to Cy Mags on that chain wrestling show, brother. What you gonna do when this pair of fools, Cy Mags...
For those who haven't heard the SJP Wrestling Podcast before, we have been on hiatus for a short time, and we are obviously coming to you now via Radio Tekkers. There is an episode way back when in the archives, I guess is the term some people use, where I spoke with Kurt about starting EVM Wrestling up from scratch, basically, and it was... the initial idea behind booking the chat that we had then was to sort of get an idea of someone starting a company up and the sort of challenges they face creating a wrestling promotion from effectively nothing. Obviously, since then, there was plenty of challenges that went on, weren't there, with regards to the first show with COVID and so on. And then you've been existing throughout the pandemic, and now just started running live shows again now. So that we kind of thought we'd just touch base and see how things are getting on and how things are going with EVM Wrestling, Kurt.
Oh, really good, actually. It's been difficult with, obviously we say about COVID. Mm-hmm. Other challenges as well, which have made things difficult, especially that last week. Yeah. I mean, just to sort of give a bit of background, I suppose, we joked in our previous discussion that you must be absolutely crazy to be starting a wrestling company in the middle of a global pandemic. And it was quite a running joke between the two of us that you were mad for trying this. Indeed.
Give us a little bit of just brief background into trying to get the first show on and the challenges you faced there, because you were co-promoting with another company that then had to pull out. You lost your main event very close to showtime because of COVID and so on. Just give us a rough idea, sort of a brief recap of what went on with the first event.
Oh, yeah, where do I start? It was a joint show originally with my buddies from Slam Down Wrestling, and they were a new company as well. And we had 3 matches each originally planned. And then they were in Wales, and Wales had you couldn't travel in and out of the country with the COVID rules. So all those guys had to pull out. So it's very short notice, literally 2 days before the show or whatever it was. I had to pick and find new guys and pick a card from scratch at really short notice. Then I lost my main event as well because of the 2 guys in it both had COVID.
Yeah, that was the one that sort of got me, losing your main event. Wasn't it like the day before or 2 days before?
Yeah.
The night before, why?
I can laugh about it now because it went well in the end, but
yeah.
At the time I felt like crying, to be honest.
Yeah, so plenty of challenges started that, but it didn't put you off, obviously.
No.
And you've now ran, was it your 3rd show on the weekend just gone?
My 3rd one, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's the best one so far as well, I would say.
Sorry?
I think it was the best one so far, I would say.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we'll get to the show and have a brief chat about that shortly, because I'd like to get your thoughts on a couple of things, because I obviously was there with my wife and my youngest daughter, and we had a fantastic time. But the second show, the one that sort of sandwiched the COVID pandemic with this show now with lesser restrictions on, kind of paved the way, I guess, for where you're heading going forward with regards to who's at the top of the card, who is wrestling for certain titles and so on. Talk us through just briefly what happened on your second show with regards to David Eaton in the main event, the title picture, because you crowned your first EVM Wrestling champion, didn't you?
We did indeed, yeah. So we did a little, the very first show, we did a mini tournament, 2 semi-finals, and the winner of those matches would meet on the second show. And obviously the second show was originally supposed to be in December. But because of COVID cancer and everything again, we had to put it back really far. It was like May 29th it was in the end. It was that long.
Yeah, it's quite a delay, isn't it?
It was a nice 5 months delay. It was lovely. So we had Dave Eaton and Ruddy win the 2 semi-final matches, so they main evented for the title. So we had Eaton go over, win the title. Yeah, happy days. It was good babyface win and all that sort of stuff. And earlier in the night we had Hotshot Adams win a guaranteed contract for a top shot anytime he wanted it. Kind of like Money in the Bank, but it was a singles match. It was just literally, he could just take it whenever he wanted to take it, and he took it at the end of that night. So Eaton had the belt for about 30 seconds.
Right, okay.
before he had it stolen, basically.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, David Eaton, real good friend of the show, comes on a regular basis, looks back at old pay-per-views with me and so on. It's odd a little bit, I think, seeing David wrestle as a good guy, because I've always known him as the bad guy, whether it was part of the Heritage City Hitmen as a tag team or as a sort of three-person stable, I guess. He's always worked more on the bad guy side of the fence whenever I've seen him. And I'm a big fan of David. I think the guy's absolutely fantastic because he does wrestling. He wrestles in a way that ticks a lot of boxes for me, because you can have all your flippy flying around stuff. That's entertaining. I understand. Great. You can have the big guys just pummeling each other. I understand. But ultimately, it always comes back to saying it says wrestling on the poster. So. Yep. And David Eaton is a wrestler. It's technical, it's hold for hold, it's counters and then counters again. I really enjoy watching David work, and it was a great experience for me seeing him again at the show we've just witnessed last weekend. Going forward, obviously, this event that we had as we were recording a few days back, How was that? How was the build up to that? Because you'd think with restrictions lifting and with, in theory, the end of the pandemic, the sort of the end of the tunnel is in sight, I guess. But yet there was still a few setbacks along the way, wasn't there?
There was, yeah. But I mean, even though there's no legal restrictions on like attendances now, the school were very cautious. And they wanted the venue. They wanted to still keep it, slightly limited, just to be safe, which is fair enough. I get it. It's a school at the end of the day. So yeah, I was respectful to what they wished, and so they gave me 50 fans is what I was allowed.
It was 30 odd, wasn't it, in the first show? Is that correct?
Yeah, the first two shows I was only allowed 30, both shows. So it was a nice increase, 50. It was. I think I got close to it. I lost a few guys because I changed the date because I was off with COVID, so I had to rearrange it 2 weeks later. So I lost some. I had to refund a few tickets because people couldn't make the new date, which was a shame. But I think we're still very close to the sell-out number, I think.
Yeah, and it's that thing, isn't it, of, again, another challenge thrown in your way for you to hurdle, I suppose, in that you lost the main event to a previous show due to COVID. You've had to... Well, yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. You've had to delay a show for many, many months due to COVID and so on. All outside factors interfering with what you're trying to do, and that's provide people with some level of entertainment during this tough time. But on this occasion, it's actually COVID directly affecting you that meant the show had to be delayed on this occasion, wasn't it? Indeed.
I mean, I tested negative every time I did it, but because I was in contact with someone who had it, they basically, the NHS app, they pinged you and you were like 10 days in my bedroom, which was really boring, to be honest.
Yeah, I bet.
It was really weird. I went downstairs afterwards, the 10 days, I was like, so I said to my wife for the first time in 10 days, and it's just strange, I have to go back upstairs, I don't know what I'm doing. It was very weird, because I got used to being in there.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's life-changing, isn't it? It's basically, you're effectively, I suppose, for want of a better term, you're imprisoned inside your own bedroom, and that is it. Mm.
I couldn't bother to shave my beard, nothing. It was like...
Yeah, so, I mean, with regards to that then, you had to move this event back again another few weeks to sort of clear your 10 days isolation. But that brought on more challenges again, didn't it?
Yeah. So I had... I don't know if I should mention names, see, because, it's a very touchy subject.
You talk about as much or as little as you feel comfortable with, don't you worry.
Cool. Well, I had a tag team booked, I had a tag team match booked. It was the 7 versus GL2. Yeah. And it was going to be a semi-final match for the tag team tournament. And the next semi-final was at the next show. Then the final will be in December, for the last show of the year. So that was all planned out. One member of GL2, Eric Myers, actually got COVID, so he had to pull out. And then I had issues with the other team with an incident happened at a show the week before. Okay. Which means I had to pull them out of the show, because I couldn't possibly have them on after what happened.
Yeah, just behaviour that's not acceptable.
It's a behavioural.
Yeah.
I'm not arrogant about it, but it was, in my opinion, it was unacceptable, and I can't have that. So I was like, see you later.
Well, yeah, I mean, and these are the decisions as the promoter. These are the decisions you have to make. You've got to look after your show, your audience, your fans, the children who come to watch, and so on. So it's a decision you have to make. It's just, again, it's another hurdle for you to overcome, I guess, because you've got a tag team match scheduled for the show, and then out of the 4 guys in the tag match, you've lost 3 of them, haven't you?
Yeah. That's 3. It was a bit upsetting, but I mean, Roy did a singles match for me, as you know. You were there, and he did really well. It was a really good match, wasn't it, that one, I thought? Yeah,
I mean, Roy Stevens, the GL2 in general, Roy Stevens and Eric Myers are both former guests on the show. They've come back on as well to review pay-per-views with me and so on. So there, and of course, my main company, I suppose, the company that's closest to me, as many people will know, is Evolution Wrestling in Gloucester. That's the one that we go along to the most as a family, simply because it's on our doorstep, and we always have a great time there. And GL2 are very much a product of Evolution Wrestling, I guess, aren't they?
They're a mainstay, aren't they? They're one of their main teams and stuff, aren't they? So it was good to have them on. It was good to have them on the show, and they're both really lovely lads as well.
I've got so much time for Roy and Eric Myers, definitely the two top fellas. But I mean, again, the majority of people I speak to on these shows tend to be an interesting, I suppose, an interesting development for the show that we were attending this week. It was a bonus because by this stage we already had our tickets. Was the return, I suppose, but in a slightly different guise, of Joshua Goodwin, who again was a former member of the Heritage City Hitmen with David Eaton, a team that we were very, very fond of, my wife and I, for a long period of time. Joshua had stepped away from wrestling for a while, as he explained on the show when he came on a few months ago. But this was his comeback match, wasn't it, against who was it he wrestled against? Sorry, Jay Sykes. That's right. Yeah, with a new gimmick, a new style, a new set of gear, and a fantastic crown to go along with this as well. It's fantastic, isn't it?
It was really good. I love those sort of gimmicks. So you remember them, don't you? You remember them.
Yeah, exactly. How did that come about? Did Joshua contact you? Did you contact him? How did you first hear about Joshua Goodwin thinking he was going to be making a return to the ring?
Yeah, he contacted me actually. Dave Eaton, our good mate, sort of suggested it to him and said, "Can we come work with me? Basically, come work with my shows." I was like, "Okay." So he messaged me, and we just started chatting. Really, so I knew him as the tag team member of Heritage City Hitmen, so I knew. Mm-hmm. He was, and he pitched his King gimmick to me, and I quite like gimmicks. I quite like those outlandish sort of characters. So I was like, "Yeah, you got the gear, mate. Yeah, feel free. We'll give it a whirl." And that's basically how it happened.
Yeah, and he didn't miss a step, did he, on his return? He looked like he'd never been away.
Yeah, he was really good. I thought. Yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah, and also, obviously, there's a few people on this show, the EVM show that I attended, that I've never seen wrestle before. The likes of Toby Valentine, for example. He wrestled in the opener. I was really, really impressed with him. The ladies match later on in the card, where you had Echo Reed versus Ruby. I thought they put on a fantastic performance. The two young girls there.
That was the only match I was able to see all the way through.
Okay.
Because I was trying to kind of side doors now and again to watch through the windows and that, because I was doing a lot of backstage stuff. So I managed to get everything I needed doing, and I was able to watch that all the way through from the beginning. So which was really good.
Yeah,
they're both only like 20 years old as well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It makes me feel about 100.
Yeah, same. I was like almost their dad, so I was a little bit like, oh god. I really watch you to get in the ring.
But I thought they were both very, very good. They told a great story in their match as well. Some brilliant, very, very athletic manoeuvres as well. You could see the sort of cheerleading background, I suppose, that Ruby has coming across in her wrestling and some of the things that she does in the ring. I thought they were really, really talented pair, and at that age as well, they've got the world in front of them, haven't they? Really.
I mean, they have. I was getting messages from some of the other punters, like text messages and things like that, and private messages to my EVM Facebook account saying how impressed they were with those two. So it was really good to hear, and so I told them obviously said how impressive they were to other people. So they were really appreciative of that, I think. Yeah, and rightfully so. Gary, it's good for them.
Yeah, I mean, you also, however, speaking of David Eaton earlier on in the show, the main event of this show was supposed to be a rematch for the title, but that changed as well. Obviously, plans change. Card subject to change is the famous saying that has been associated with wrestling for a very long time. But sorry.
I always write that on my posts as well. I was at the bottom.
Yeah, I think it needs to be there, doesn't it?
Especially what's happened in the last shows.
So, I mean, the original card had David Eaton challenging for the EVM Heavyweight Championship. That had to change as well because the current champion was unavailable on this date. Is that correct?
Yeah. He was too. He couldn't. He did the original date and he couldn't do the new one.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of rearrange it again. So I had to come up with a new storyline to say why he wasn't there.
Which I think is very interesting because what we have now is David Eaton. He faced Casey Wilde in the main event, and I've never seen Casey Wilde before. Again, very impressed with him.
Yeah, he does a lot of he works a lot of exposure wrestling in Wales. He does a lot of stuff from there, and RWS as well, which is like Lewis Blaine's promotion. He does that stuff. He's quite impressive, athletic guy. I think he's really decent. He's got a good character.
Yeah, the sort of flashing lights on the boots I got a kick out of, and there's tassels galore all over the place. I mean, visually, it's a very striking gimmick, a striking outfit, isn't it? With lights and everything like that. It's memorable. Again, I suppose it's in the same way that we discussed Joshua Goodwin and the King being memorable, and you walk away from a show remembering this character and his match. It's similar with Casey Wilde. The appearance of the guy and the way he looks and the way he comes to the ring, it does stick in your mind straight away, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. He's got something about him that you can just be drawn into it. So much so that my mum actually friended him on Facebook and started messaging him and stuff on his page.
Oh, brilliant!
I like your boots. It was really funny.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's got new fan of my mum, so that's interesting for him.
But the sort of direction you headed was to have the main event of this show, I suppose, have bigger sort of decisions being made towards when David Eaton finally does get his title match. If Casey Wilde was to have won this contest, he would have been added to the match, making it a triple threat. And David Eaton wins, and he picks the stipulation. Now, I mean, if you want to take it from there, Kurt, and just explain what happened in the main event and where we're going for the next show with regards to the heavyweight title.
The next show will be, there's a confirmed date, 19th of September. It will be David Eaton challenging Hot Shot Chris Adams to the title. It's a loser leaves town match. So whoever loses is out, basically, gone from the company.
Yeah, really interesting stipulation as well. I mean, I wasn't expecting that to be the stipulation David chose, knowing his personal taste in wrestling and how he won this contest via submission with the figure four. I kind of thought, we might go for some sort of submission style stipulation here. That's
kind of what I thought, but this lose leaves town match is actually his idea as well. He pitched this idea. There is a reason for it, but I might have to tell you out of the.
I think we've already discussed that. Yeah, we'll leave that.
Why it's happened.
Yeah, of course.
We don't give too much away, obviously.
Yeah, of course. So where was Casey Wilde fitting in the card beforehand then? Before you lost the champion for this date?
He was actually a late addition. Okay. So he wasn't on the card originally. But I talked to him quite a bit anyway, and I had him planned for September anyway, so he was going to be on the card for September no matter what. And I just messaged him saying, do you fancy come down in a couple of weeks? And we'll get you a match sort of thing. So it just came from there, really. I'd already got him booked for September and December.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought if he's free on that date, I'll tell him what the plan was, and he was happy to come and do it. And because Eaton had been on Cue Ball's podcast before, mentioned how he struggled to beat Casey in a match. He's had problems beating him.
Right.
Why Hotshot picked Casey as his opponent because he knew he'd have problems trying to beat him.
I see. Okay.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to Cue Ball and his partner Big D in a moment. But I mean, yeah, Cue Ball's a top bloke. I've been on his show and he's been on mine. Lovely fella. But I mean, with regards to the rearrangements you had, how does this affect... I suppose basically what I'm doing now is I'm trying to sort of pick your brains as the organiser, pick your brains as the booker, I guess. How does this affect putting the show together? How early on do you know, okay, I've got to change this match, and this match? And then have you in your head already got effectively a running order set out that you have to tinker with? And why do certain matches go in certain spots, I guess?
I changed the run off this show like about 5-6 times.
Okay.
Once I lost a couple of guys, through the incident and stuff, and then the other one through COVID and losing the champion as well. I had to sort of move a bit of stuff around. When I first did all the card up, it was all in good positions. Then when I had to rearrange it, I put stuff around again, and it was like very heel heavy at the start and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, better move this stuff around. I was getting like 3 or 4 heel wins in a row. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right. So I was like, let's start moving it about. I changed it about 6 times before I settled on the right order. It hasn't changed many plans for the next show, really. So that's the one thing. I haven't really had to change much from the next show because a lot of those guys were already booked for the next one anyway.
Okay.
So a lot of it's the same. I've got about 7 matches booked for the next one, which I'll start revealing soon. And 5 of them were already the same as I originally booked. So I've had to change too much, really, which is good. Yeah.
I suppose you sort of still able to, I suppose, stick with the bigger picture, the bigger plan going forward, I suppose. You say there about rearranging the card based upon the order of the matches, the running order, I suppose, and it being a little heel heavy at the beginning and so on. Just explain to anyone listening what exactly you mean by that. I mean, that's the sort of thing I'm sort of really trying to pick your brains over, I guess. Why would you, as a promoter who obviously knows who is going to be going over, who's going to be winning the matches, knows what's going to be happening in these different contests, how do you structure the card from opener up to when you have your break and then to when you come back to the main event and so on? How do you sort of prioritise which match goes where? What's the sort of criteria for that?
To be honest, I just go with what I think people would like from the beginning. I mean, originally I had the tag team match to start, so because it was the company's first ever tag team match, I thought that's a great way to open it. And then what happened, it took a bit of the shine away from what I was trying to do with it. Because I had to have 2 new teams for the tag team match, so I was like, well, okay, I've been pushing this other tag match for ages, hyping up to be the first ever tag match in the company, and I lost both teams. I was just like, I'll put something else first. There's been an advertised match the whole time, so I put the Bestie and Valentine on first. Mm-hmm. So I've been advertising them from the beginning. So I was like, well, let's get them on first, and I know they're good young lads, both trained down at Reach in Plymouth. I thought that would set a tone because they're real talented lads, so I thought that would just be a good way to kick it off. But I had like 3 or 4 heels in a row winning when I originally typed out the running order.
Okay.
I was like, I can't do that. That's what I mean by heel heavy. It was all like heel wins for the first half of the show. Yeah. And I was like, well, fans would be a bit peeved if they got to the break and no babyfaces won a match. So
no, I understand.
Then I think I had the right order in the end. I think it worked out quite well.
Yeah, I think so. There was a definite flow to the event. I mean, there was no moments where, I suppose it's a bit of a cliche, I guess, but if I'm at a football match or if I'm at a wrestling event, I guess, or if I'm watching something on the television, I can tell how into it I am by how often I pick my phone up, I suppose, because it's not something that I would subconsciously do, just grab my phone up. But if I find my attention drifting, it's kind of like a natural thing for me just to pick my phone up and start scrolling, I guess. And I didn't have to touch my phone once throughout this event. It had a definite flow to it. There was no lulls, I guess, in the matches or the running order that made me kind of lose interest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to hear, actually, as well, because it means I've got it right.
Well, yeah.
And that's difficult to get right, isn't it? I mean, you can't, especially when I'm a novice promoter. I've done 3 shows. There's always going to be, like, cracks and stuff, isn't there? So to get it pretty spot on by my 3rd show, I'm quite happy with that, to be honest.
Yeah, and it is that thing of, I guess, you say it's your 3rd show, and that's why it's so interesting for me, because obviously we had you on the SJP Wrestling Pod when you were literally just starting out. And now you've ran a couple of shows, and you've had challenges in putting this promotion together, this starting this company up, that no other wrestling promoter would have experienced. So that's why I think it's a really interesting tale, looking at the challenges and the hurdles you have to jump over and so on to get these matches in the ring, to get these events on for the people who wish to come and see them. So that's why I was so keen to have you back on and talk to you again now, having actually come and witnessed a show myself. You mentioned the tag match there. You had Yeah and Scare, which is a friend of the show, Q-Ball, and his partner, Big D, versus Lucky Bowden and the Necessary Evil Palmer.
Yeah.
The impression I got from the heel side, I guess, Palmer and Bowden, is that they were very much thrown together and didn't really want to team together. Is that sort of the angle you were going for?
That's the story we're going for, yeah. Because we had Bowden as a babyface, really. He was the reluctant partner. So you can see they were arguing during the match, and they were trying to outdo each other. That was the story we're going for, to set up a feud between those two, which is going to start in they're going to match in September, and it's going to keep going for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, and that's good. There's a couple of nice little subtle touches I found early on in this match with regards to just something as straightforward as the entrances. Now, obviously, I'm coming in cold to this. I'm coming in having, I don't know. I know Q-Ball, I know Yeah and Scare. I'm not familiar with the guys on the other side of the ring. So they have this story to tell, and I imagine it wouldn't be just me who was unfamiliar with this, because you're a new company, and obviously the pandemic has made it difficult for you to get the numbers through the door that you would like, because literally you're being told, okay, you hit this number, you're allowed no more. So I'd imagine there would have been new faces and new eyeballs on the product. So little touches like, for example, Palmer putting his jacket on the ring post, just hanging it up ready to compete, and Bowden coming down and throwing his jacket off onto the floor to hang his own jacket up. Straight away, you could, just a little touch like that. It may seem like not much, but straight away it's sending the message out to those watching, okay, these guys are not necessarily on the same page. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was literally, the idea was that they were the reluctant partners, because there's got a chance to get winning gold, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That is why they stayed, they're like team together, is the story. They're like, okay, I don't like this guy, but there's a chance to win a title bout. Let's do it, sort of thing. But
yeah,
the idea was they hated, but that's how it looked on the show.
Yeah, that's the way it came across. Yeah, I mean, with regards as well to Palmer, the Necessary Evil, and Big D on the other side of the ring, those are some big boys, aren't they? That is some beef in that ring.
It is indeed. The funniest thing, after you go backstage and talk to them, they're two of the loveliest guys. But they're big guys, and you want to get fighting them, to be honest, would you?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Somebody say stuff that match where Bowden was trying to like body slam Big D.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to tell Palmer to stay back, and he was going to try and do it again. I think about 4 times trying to do it to him.
Yeah, and those little moments I think are really important as well, because you've got the main event not long after this. You got the tag, and then it was the ladies, and then it was the main event, wasn't it, I think?
And we had the Worcestershire Championship final in between that as well.
Yes, of course. So,
tag, yeah.
Yeah, so you come back from your break, your interval, your intermission, however you wish to refer to it as, and you've got, I suppose, people coming back, taking their seats, looking into the ring, and they've had, they've seen a couple of bad guys win early on in the card. There's been some great heel work from Joshua Goodwin yelling at the crowd and so on. And then you get these little moments in the tag match of just pure comedy. And I think it really does help move a show along when you get these little funny moments in the ring with Bowden trying to slam Big D and so on. I think it's great. And my daughter, Charlie, was absolutely wetting herself. She was roaring with laughter watching this.
It was pretty funny. I saw bits of this. I saw the body slam attempt from the window. I saw my mum was watching it. She was in there as well, and I saw her laughing. I thought it was pretty funny.
Okay, and that's
good. Have sort of things in the matches. Sometimes you just have to have that comedy and not all be serious all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have everything the same, because then once you've seen an hour of action, you've seen everything, haven't you? So,
and to be fair, if Bowden was able to slam Big D, everyone would know it was real and realistic, and that couldn't ever happen.
I guess.
It would never ever happen. You would never be able to pick him to slam him down.
Yeah, no, I understand.
If you jumped and did that, it just wouldn't have worked really.
And I suppose finally, I mean, it didn't close the show out. We've already discussed the main event with David Eaton choosing his stipulation for his title match at the next show. It didn't close the match out, but there was another championship on the line in the second half of the event. Tell us a little bit about this and the idea behind creating this new title and the people that you had competing in the tournament to try and win the Worcestershire Championship.
I was always looking to bring in another title, like the undercard title. It's always good to have another title to elevate people. Mm-hmm. So you get them to take the next step to get the main title. So that was the aim behind it, really. I never advertised it because I wasn't sure the battle would actually arrive on time.
Oh, okay.
I bought it and had it made, but I wasn't sure I'd get it here before show day. It was a very late decision to order one, basically. It was like the day after I cancelled the previous date for the show. And I thought, okay, I was going to introduce my new title in September, but I thought, well, I've lost my championship match for this show. I wonder if I can get a belt in and get it a month early. So it came on the Thursday, so it actually arrived just a couple of days for the show. But originally, the triple threat match I had originally planned was going to be the championship match.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was going to add Abel Evans into that match, make it a four-way. And I decided to do two singles matches and then a final instead, like a mini tournament, which was a little bit better, I think, in the end.
Yeah, it was. And of course, to me, you can build throughout the show. Then, can't you? You can tell a story in the separate matches and separate moments, as happened with Joshua Goodwin attacking the eventual champion and so on. You're already adding extras to what's going on to be looking forward to the next event, I suppose.
Yeah, I've got the championship matches for that title planned for the next two shows. So as long as those guys said they are available, so as long as nothing else happens, I've already got forward thinking planned to the end of the year. Revolve around that new title. So that's good. So I like to forward plan things. I like a long-term story. It's only stuff like when incidents happen out of your control, you have to start rearranging plans and making new ones, basically.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, well, as I said, Kurt, it's been great being able just to touch base with you again after actually finally meeting you in person this time and seeing the event myself firsthand. I look forward to getting to more EVM wrestling shows with my family. For those who are interested, do you want to just give some details out to anyone listening now with regards to upcoming shows, whereabouts they can find you online for more information with regards to venues and so on?
Yeah, sure. Got another one 11th December. That's earlier in the afternoon. I think I got to 3 o'clock. The only socials on is Facebook, so we've got a Facebook page, obviously. EVM Wrestling Official is called.
Yeah, excellent stuff. So anyone listening now, just go and find EVM Wrestling Official on Facebook. This is where you can get all the match announcements, the venue details, the ticket details, all that good stuff there, and you can keep up to date with what's going on.
This is quite a good deal we get with them. So
say that again, sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Stick to the same venue at the moment because it's quite a good deal we get with them.
Okay.
It's really good venues. You were there. It's a really good place to have a show, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And once you have full capacity, you can get like 120 odd in there with the ring. So it's a good good venue when it's full capacity. That's what I'm looking forward to. Eventually getting that.
Yes, definitely. I'll have to try and make sure that I'm one of those 120-ish people. And again, Mr. Healey, thank you so much for your time this evening, just popping on to sort of touch base and give us a little update on how EVM Wrestling is getting on. I look forward to seeing more shows myself and hopefully getting you back on again when we have potentially the next step in the progression of the company. No restrictions at all, full crowds, or guns are blazing.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. So let's just hope we can follow through with them, basically.
Yeah, definitely so. Okay, Kurt, thank you so much for your time.